Hi everyone, my name is Alex O'Keefe and I'm the Research and Instruction Librarian at the John M. Flaxman Library. Today we're going to explore some different options for finding images online. I know you all already have a video from Mackenzie about using advanced Google searching for both images and other Google options. So today we're going to start on the library website. So to do that, the best way to get here is actually go to saic.edu/library. And that's a shorter version of our very long link. And once you're here, we're going to actually scroll down, skip past the search box we normally recommend you use. And for today, we want to look at our research guides. So we have this research help box. When you click on that, we have a couple different types of guides. In this case, we're going to go to the how-to, and we have a how to find resources by type. So once you're in there, we have lots of different resources, obviously, that you can search for. So books, articles, all of these fun things. But as we said, we're looking for images. Once you click on that, you'll see a lot of different options for image searching. Some of them are databases that the library provides. Some of them are specific to discipline. We also have local Chicago images, which is really helpful if you're working on specific projects. And then free sources and things about copyright and Creative Commons. But again, for now, let's just kind of look at some of our library options since you've already used Google, and we'll use Artstor. So Artstor is an image database. I'm sure you've heard of databases like EBSCO or JSTOR for articles. In this case, we use Artstor for images of art specifically. So it's not just going to be general images or images like photos of animals or things like that. It's going to be specifically art. So anytime you're off campus and you need to use one of the library databases, you will be prompted to log in. So once you've logged in using your Arctic username and password and you're in Artstor for the first time, we highly recommend first actually registering within Artstor. This unlocks a lot of really helpful features that are otherwise unavailable to you. So even though you can use Artstor without registering, we recommend doing so. So I'm just going to walk through this really quickly. It is a email just for Artstor, but obviously we recommend using your SAIC credentials so there aren't any issues with access. It's going to ask for your role. You all would put students. I am a librarian. Department. If you have one, you can just say other if it's easier. And then you can agree to receive updates. You don't have to, and you do need to agree to the terms of using Artstor and click register. Awesome. Once you're registered, you'll see in the upper corner your SAIC email address and this logout option. So anytime you're in Artstor, we just recommend logging in so that you have all of the full options available to you. So in looking at Artstor, like I was saying earlier, it is mostly for art images. It's often contributed to by museums and universities and schools and other cultural institutions, essentially. So there's a lot of information in here, which is phenomenal, but it may or may not give you the kinds of things you're looking for. So it's better for searching for a specific art movement, art topic, or artist and their work. It's not so good necessarily for general topical searching. So let's say that I'm interested in finding work with cats. When I do that, I get quite a lot of results, but as you can see, the first few aren't necessarily things with cats in them. Some of them are, so like, this is great, 2 cats in a landscape, Harper's in May. But sometimes it's also things like Jacob Katz is an artist, and I'm getting things by them. So it is really good for some things, but can be harder to use for general browsing. So like, here's more portraits of people whose last name Katz. But something else I want to point out, especially now that you're familiar with Google Advanced Image Search, is that Artstor has an advanced search option that is really helpful. So we can change in any field to be the subject, for instance, and find where cats are the subject. We can also try and clarify classifications, collection type, geography. In this case, classification can be pretty helpful if you're trying to find specific types of images like paintings or photographs or drawings. So in this case, let's say I just want to try and find paintings where cats are the subject, and I click search. So again, there's some people whose last name are cats who are the subject, but we're getting a little bit more relevant results with cats featured in them, which is helpful. But if you know a specific artist you want to look up, it can be particularly useful. In this case, we get 171 results, but the nice thing about Artstor is they are all high quality images, and if you are logged in, you are also able to look at them in different ways. They have this great compare feature, so if you wanted to compare different Nick Cave works, you can select more than one. You can add it to a group that you create, so if you're working on a presentation or a class, or you're just doing personal research on a particular theme or artists, you can create your own group in Artstor and have them, and I think share them as well. So other cool things that Artstor has that things like Google may not is it gives you all of the important information about this piece, including the date, the material, who the artist is. You could then click on this link to see everything by Nick Cave. They have an Artstor tagged this way. You can also then dive into some different subjects you might be interested in based on that artwork. You can also find out the source of who provided it, as well as rights information. The other fantastic thing is that it has a permanent link, which is something that can be really useful if you're wanting to share an image without having to download it. However, you can download it, which is really helpful. You can also do a fantastic cite option where it auto-generates citations for you in a number of different formats that you can then copy and add to something else. So these are all really fantastic. I'm particularly interested in his sound suits. Oh, it's me misspelling things. Artstor is not as nice for using our general language the way that Google is. It does want specific things correctly. So in this case, when I misspelled sound suits, it did not pull anything up, and it was like, that doesn't exist, but it does. I just mistyped it. So now that I have found the right words, we can see a lot of different really cool images of some of those works. But we can also see that we have a number with the Art Institute of Chicago that have been contributed. So you can see who the institution is, which is really helpful for your citations. And speaking of citations, let's take a second and go back to the library homepage. So that was saic.edu/library. And again, I'm going to skip past the search box and go back to our research help. I have another how-to guide that is really helpful if you are working on image or other citations. So we have how to cite your work. This page is a little bit in progress, but we have a really great page created for how to cite images. And what we do on this page is we let you know the different aspects you need to take note of in order to create your citation. So these are called the elements of a citation. In this case, we need the artist's name, the title, the date, all of that sort of general information. But it can be nice to create this checklist for yourself and make sure you're writing that information down as you collect images to make it faster when the time comes to cite them. We also have some helpful citation examples at the bottom in different formats. So we have Chicago, MLA, and APA, which are the fairly common ones. We have the pieces and how you put them together. And then we also have an example using this image from the Art Institute of Chicago. So as you're working on your research and trying to find images for presentations or trying to find images in general, it can be really useful to make sure you're keeping this in mind as you go along. If you're not using a tool like Artstor, and even if you are, it can be helpful to be aware of the different things necessary that are in your citation. It's also always important to note that when you use automatic citation generators, like Artstor has in this case, it's best practice to go through and clean this up. For instance, in the MLA citation style, some of this is probably italicized and it's not showing up that way in this citation. Sometimes it'll give you names spelled incorrectly. There are quite a few different things that can be messy about the citation that you might need to clean up, and that's where the citation guide can really come in handy. So Artstor is a valuable tool for research about art movements, artists, and art history generally helpful for finding high quality images and useful citation information, but of course it may not be the catch-all for all the images you're looking for. So sometimes it can be useful to seek other image options. In this case, let's go back to our how to find images and our how to find resources by type guide, which we got to through the research guides link on the homepage. So once we're back here, we're going to click on free sources, and you'll see that we actually suggest Google Images and advanced image search, which you've already learned about from Mackenzie. So let's check out Flickr. Flickr is an interesting one because it can be contributed to by anybody, similar to Google, but it has some features that you may not have heard about before now. So let's repeat that same search we did in Artstor. When we do that, as you might remember from all of the different ways you can use Google Advanced Search, once you've done a search in Flickr, you can then turn on advanced options. In this case, we could say we only want large images, that we only want photos or videos. You can try and play with the color options. That's always interesting, as well as orientation, or if you're looking for all things that mention Nick Cave sound suits or just tags that people have used since this is a social platform. But something else that Flickr has is this tag for different licenses. So whenever anyone uploads something to Flickr, they can apply various licenses to that work. And these are all similar to copyright or copyright licenses essentially. And Creative Commons is something where anyone who's uploaded it wants other people to be able to use it to varying degrees. So this is a fantastic resource. Now we have all of these really, really well shot, large, high quality images as well. Some of them are pretty detailed. It's possibly people who went to visit an exhibition, for instance, and took these photos while they were there. And the thing to remember about this that can be a little bit harder is trying to do that citation with the image. So using these images, depending on the purpose, can be really useful. It especially can be helpful if you aren't finding good results in Google or Artstor. Again, some of them are very high quality because Flickr allows for much larger upload sizes. But you have to keep in mind, how are you going to cite this thing? How are you going to be using it? What is the best option for you? But again, it can be a really helpful and really valuable option for trying to find various images. In this case, it can be cool to see in action shots and people who were present trying to take photos of the moment in a way that are not going to necessarily be captured on something like Artstor, which is a little bit more institutional. So that's just a couple options for finding images through our library How to Find Resources by Type guide. We highly recommend you check out a lot of these other links whenever you're doing your research. But as always, if you have any questions at all, you are welcome to contact us. We always have the flaxman@saic.edu email address on our homepage. If you have any issues with access, finding something, or other research questions, we do check that email frequently on weekdays, and we're happy to help you out. Best of luck!